Ayan, so ito yung binanggit ko kanina, talking about precision and then the accuracy. So precision is the closeness or the measure of spread, and then the accuracy is the closeness to the true value or the reference value. Okay. Are you familiar with cluster analysis? So cluster analysis is in a form of determining the possible effect of one variable towards the other. Because as you can see from all these data points, parang hindi natin makita yung possible relationship. But it's a bit positive. But if we're going to deep dive or what we call apply the cluster analysis, segment further yung nandito, wherein yung segmentation ginagawa niya is statistical. It is not predefined that you wanted to group just this and then the other one is this. No. So in the application cluster analysis, so meron tayong tinatawag na yung centroid, and then the distances of those values, all of these dots to the centroid, and then determining how many clusters yung gusto nating ilabas. So in this case, perform the cluster analysis and you have this. So halimbawa gusto ko lang is tatlong cluster lang, then I've come up with this color-coded results. Cluster 1, the green. If you wanted to show just the cluster 1, okay, and you'll see the simple relationship, it's a bit positive. But papunta na siya sa pagiging horizontal. Cluster 2 is a negative. So the direction is like this. And the cluster 3 is medyo messy siya. So horizontal na po siya when the line is horizontal, so considered no relationship. But if it is inclined to the right, it is a positive. If it is inclined to the left, it is negative. There is a simple application how to determine the possible relationship or the possible differences. It depends upon the parameters that it depends upon the test that you want to measure from the data set. Okay. Another form of application is decision tree. I know decision tree is not part of statistical subjects, I think in SLSU. So I've learned decision trees outside SLSU. So decision tree, the well-known, actually marami po yung decision trees. So meron shade, meron tinatawag na CART. So shade is the chi-square automatic interaction detector. CART is about regression, classification and regression trees. So yung CART, applicable lang po siya talaga kapag the data set is qualitative. While decision trees for shade, so applicable siya whether your data set is categorical or not categorical. As stated here, so this node 0, it is what we call the parent node. Or in our variables, this is your ultimate dependent variable. And all of this this layer 1, income level, the layer 2, you have the credit cards, and then the layer 3, the age, all of this are the predictors. Through decision trees, so we're able to determine the possible effect or the importance of each of these variables towards the dependent variable. So gaano kalaki yung effect ng income level? Gaano kalaki yung effect ng credit cards? Okay? And at the same time, you're able to determine the possible prediction, a sort of prediction. For instance, without any predictors, the category good is around 58.6, while the category bad is just 41.3 or 41.4. But when income level comes in, provided that the income level is low, so from 58, it goes down to 17. Okay? So ibig sabihin, nakikita natin yung simple relationship that when the income level is low, the percentage of category good is lesser. Okay? While the category bad becomes larger. Okay? And the other way around, if it is medium or above medium, so the relationship is from 58, it goes down, it goes up to 88. So that is what we call percent change from 58 up to 88%. Okay, so simple illustration of decision trees. If you wanted to know further on this, so maybe we can have a separate session if you want, just to elaborate further yung application on decision trees. So as I mentioned, ginagamit siya sa categorical and non-categorical. Kasi sa dataset natin in the academe, most of the time we treat our samples linear. That's why when we ask for the relationship, we always use Pearson R, the correlation. We always use regression because we treat our samples linear. But in the actual, in the outside world, considered outside of that frame, hindi dapat ganun yung treatment pala natin. So the treatment must be, kasi pag sinabi nating linear, marami kasing hinihingi yan na estimates. So kailangan napafollow niya una normality. Okay? While in the case of decision trees, ginagamit siya dun sa mga non-linear type of dataset. Wherein ito talaga yung, kasi sa libro lang talaga yung linear. Kasi tested na yun eh. Pero sa labas, sa actual setup, hindi talaga ganun yung dataset natin. We just treated our dataset linear. Pero in the actual setup, hindi siya linear. That's why in our case, we didn't use simple regression or maybe a simple correlation. Instead, we applied different approaches to measure the relationship, like the decision trees. Okay. And actually, this is one of the results in our satisfaction survey. So maybe this is applicable to our setup in the university. Remember, meron tayong evaluation, meron tayong peer evaluation. We also have the students evaluation. Okay? So actually, mahabang process yon. And we just receive, from the HR, we just received the numeric value through, let's say, yung answer na sa 1 to 5, what is the weighted mean? And then from that, the next question is, how we're going to improve further that result. So nothing follows after that. So this approach, kaya pinilit ko siyang i-share ito. So pwede natin siyang ma-improve further to determine which of the categories or which of the questions yung kailangan nating i-work on so that yung value na na-receive natin from HR is mapa-improve pa natin. So this is one descriptive approach, the loyalty matrix. A loyalty matrix, maybe you can search this. Available naman po siya sa web. So loyalty, the horizontal part, hindi lang yata po siya kita sa screen. The horizontal axis, it focused on the behavior. In my presentation, this is retention in our case. And then the vertical axis, the satisfaction. Okay? So, yung retention, it talks about the future. Okay? Are they planning to stay in our setup? Are they planning to stay inside the university? Whether you are a faculty or a non-teaching personnel. At the same time, the satisfaction, it talks about the current state, your overall satisfaction in any aspect inside the university. And it says we can combine the information of your retention or your behavior and then the satisfaction into what we call loyalty matrix. In loyalty matrix, we have the truly loyal. Ito yung dream ng lahat, that the responses, if you are an employer, if you are the head of this, the university or a department, their ultimate goal is the response must fall on this region. High retention, high behavior, or the high satisfaction, rather than high risk. So usually, ito yung mga individual na gusto nang umalis. Okay, low retention, at the same time, they are not satisfied at all. While yung accessible trap, so they have a different perspective. In accessible, maybe they're planning to stay not that long, but still, at this point, or at up to date, they're still satisfied. But in terms of trap, so even though they are not fully satisfied on the process or whatsoever, but still they were planning to stay longer. So a simple illustration of a loyalty matrix. So now let me share with you. Okay, this is a continuity of what I presented, the loyalty matrix. Kasi kinat ko lang siya kasi medyo we have a sensitive information before that. That's why I just screenshot na lang yung portion ng loyalty. So, again, in the case of the satisfaction, or actually this is also applicable, not just in the satisfaction of the employee, applicable din siya dun sa mga social science research. So what we did here is from the set of questionnaires, yun yung usual meron tayo na available. So we also have questionnaires, structured questionnaires to measure yung satisfaction, determine the satisfaction of the employees. So what we did, originally meron talaga mga groupings na yung mga questions. Let's say this is work condition, the other one is about pay, the other one is about peers, something like that. But in the analysis that we did, so we didn't follow that groupings. Instead, we apply what we call the factor analysis. Why? Because we wanted to mag-group yung questions according to the perceptions of the respondents. It is not the groupings made by the researcher. Okay? So even the questionnaire is reviewed na siya, dumaan na sa ganito, from the expert ganon. So in our case, we didn't follow that. Instead, we follow what the respondents says dun sa survey. So in the application of the factor analysis, so maybe you can use also the factor analysis, not just in the current illustration. Just to discuss, factor analysis is a dimension reduction technique. Dimension reduction in the sense we don't want to use a model with huge number of parameters. Kasi kung meron tayong 10 group of set of questions, let's say you have the group 1, talk about pay, group 2, you have about the environment and so on. Medyo sa modeling, having those number of parameters, it increases yung error. That is why ginagamitan siya ng dimension reduction to minimize the error. Okay, so from I forgot how many groupings do we have here, but after having the factor analysis with 43 ungrouped questions, we're able to come up with 5 factors. So we have different considerations on how to do the factor analysis. So again, like the decision trees, you can still approach me on how to discuss further yung detailed ng factor. So I'm just discussing here the illustrative example. So from the factor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you check the underlying theme of each of the factor and then name it as, in our case, we name it as supervision. In factor 2, we name it as job. 3, career growth, the culture, pay and benefits as the new factors. So if we have 12 factors and original groupings, now we only have 5. Compare the error, 12 versus 5. Okay? And each of this factor, so yung mga dots dyan, ito yung individual questions that are grouped together. Okay? So each of the factors has a corresponding, as a result of the factor analysis, it has a result that measures the importance of each of the questions towards a specific factor. So gaano kalaki yung contribution ng isang question dun sa overall category or factor, something like that. Okay? And then after you apply the factor analysis, now that we have this loads or weights, so we can use I think I've seen one research, a graduate research from our faculty. I think it's Dr. Miano from Kabha. I've seen his method, that is the structural equation modeling. Okay, that is a high-level statistical approach. Well, the structural equation modeling, it passed through the factor analysis. That's the first step. You apply the factor analysis, and then the next one is you apply the structural equation modeling. Structural equation modeling, the lighter part of that is path analysis. Okay? So in here, so sa structural equation modeling, you'll see the interrelationships of these predictors and the relationship of these predictors towards the overall dependent variable. And in this case, it is color-coded. So the one you selected, colored green, and then the affecting items, OD factors directly affect, or that has a direct effect to it, colored blue, and then the affected item is colored orange. Okay? So yung nakikita lang natin dito, yung mga direct effect. For instance, supervision in this case, it has a direct effect towards culture, and culture has a direct effect towards overall satisfaction. But supervision versus overall satisfaction, tinatawag na natin siyang meron silang indirect effect. Okay? Because yung supervision, dadaan pa siya kay culture or dadaan pa siya kay career growth bago siya pumunta kay overall satisfaction. In the structural equation modeling, we're not looking at the direct effect, we're not looking at the indirect effect, but instead we look at the total effect. So we consider the effect directly and then the indirect. We combine the two, that's the total effect, so that we can measure the importance, we can measure yung percentage, yung weights, yung impact ng isang variable towards a selected dependent variable. So in our case, so career growth plays a very important role at 31.5, having the highest contributor to the overall satisfaction. Meaning, if we remove career growth, it is the possible impact to the result of the overall satisfaction. Okay, same case with the retention. And then, as I've said a while ago, the satisfaction, we can combine it into the behavioral or the future state into a form of the loyalty. Okay? So yun, sabi natin kanina, the one we receive from HR, just the numeric value. We just have a weighted result. But in here, if we apply this kind of analysis, we're able to determine yung specific driver na pwede nating galawin or improve further para mas mapa-improve natin yung value na binibigay ni HR. So what are the drivers? What are the categories that we need to work on? Okay? So this is the loyalty improve index or the improve index or the indexing in general. So the room to improve, so this is the counterpart of your overall performance. So the overall performance is, in this case, it's around 80+%, the 84%. And therefore, the room to improve is around 15. And the current state, when you combine the performance on the behavior and then the satisfaction, they fall on the loyal, on the green side, which is the truly loyal state, which is good if you are a head or a leader of a department. Okay, so in here, we are able to see what are the items that we need to work on. So it says, so the per factor room to improve career growth and job are the top two categories that a single or this employer faculty, for instance, they need to work on this so that their performance will increase, so that their room to improve will decrease further. Okay, and you can determine what are the set of questions inside the a particular group, kung ano pa yung pwede nating mapa-improve by addressing the individual questions. So naka-cascade naman siya. You start from the individual questions that are grouped together inside the career growth, and then afterwards, whatever the improvement that you did inside here will cascade up to the overall career growth. Or better, we can combine all the questions and then form, actually, ginawa na namin ito, gumawa na kami ng calculator so that we can check at what particular point yung improvement na magagawa if we address these questions. For instance, your target is 90. Your current state is around 84. Your target on the next run is to increase it up to 90%. So therefore, you need to work on this set of questions. You need to work on culture. Okay. You need to work on the administration, admin 3, or I mean the culture, career growth, and so on. So this is simple illustration on how to simply improve the survey that we get from the university. This is just a suggestion.